Hey guys, it is Wednesday, October 18th. You are watching PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. I am Andrew. I have Carmine with me. He's off a big 5% winner. Hope all of you guys took advantage of that one. We have two games after a massive slate last night, just two games to break down the battle of the capitals. Yes, the capitals of the nation, of course, of Canada, the Ottawa Senators, and Washington Capitals there, the capital of America. Two capitals going head to head. We'll find out who Carmine likes in that matchup. And the second game, we have Pittsburgh and Detroit going head to head. Can Detroit keep it going and play upset once again tonight? We will find out. But Carmine, you know how the NHL does it. They have one night where it's a lot of games, and then the next night they'll give us just two games, man. It's just how they like to roll. Some wild results yesterday, a very entertaining slate of NHL games, but I'm sure you're happy about your 5% winner. So any quick thoughts about yesterday, and then go ahead and dive right in to the battle of the capitals.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I'm pretty happy with yesterday. I've taken a cautious approach to the season thus far, but I said I was going to amp it up with these free play videos that you find on the Wager Talk site. There's one of them out there today, a couple later, and we have some more data now. As we get more data, we always want to jump in and just bet like 6 games every single night. But there's like, come on, man. There's like, I think it's 1,360 games in the NHL season. There's plenty of games you guys can pass anytime you want. I know it's not a great thing to pass, but just pass, get more data, and hopefully turn that data into money. And yesterday was good, so it's good. But we're on to today, and thanks for the guys that followed along. I didn't even watch the end of the Carolina game. I went to sleep when the game was 1-1. I'm like, I'm gonna wake up, and it's a winner or a loser, and it'll be a perfect night or a one-losser. Way to go, Canes! With that said, Andrew, this is such an interesting game because I did a video on this one this morning, and you look at this number, and I actually think this money line is probably on our Wager Talk Live lines, which you guys should be utilizing because there's some great info on there. This line opened at like minus 150. It's up to like minus 170 is a consensus number. There's a couple books, maybe one book or two that have it at about 165. But the fact that there's only a couple games tonight, the fact that there is no NFL football tonight, it only means that hockey and possibly this game is going to get a lot more action than it normally would. And when people look at these teams, they're going to think that Ottawa is the better team, and that money line could get 180, could hit 190, and then that becomes unplayable. If you can get at 165, I would play the money line on Ottawa because if you break down these two teams, you look at the Sens. They played a really good game in Carolina, but Carolina at home is extremely tough to beat. They generated 3.27 XG in that game. They scored 3 goals. They lose 5-3. So they're pretty much on what their XG was. Their next couple of games, they generate against Philadelphia and Tampa at home, where they're playing tonight, 341 and 364 of XG. So they're getting the chances. They're getting shots on goal. And they exceeded their XG by scoring 5 goals in each game, 5-2 score lines. So you would think, okay, all 3 games have gone over the total. Do you want to take the over in this game? I don't, because it always comes back to the fact of when you take a total, you've got to be certain that both teams can contribute scoring in that game to get that number over the total. The Edmonton game, thankfully, the Oilers did a lot of the scoring. I thought Nashville would get scoring. That was the thought process in going into that one, and the game finishes 6-1. Um, so you look at Washington, and Washington is the reverse. They play 2 games at home. They get shut out by Pittsburgh, an XG of 2.09, only 19 shots on goal, only 5 high danger chances. And then they play Calgary, a game that they probably should have lost against Calgary, but the Flames can't seem to put together 60 minutes. They blew the game against Pittsburgh, and they blew this one against Washington, despite only allowing 23 shots on goal and 2.60 of XG. And then they lose it in a shootout. It's a game that Calgary lost more than Washington won. So do I want to take a team on the road for their first game that doesn't have a lot of depth and isn't generating a lot of scoring chances? I don't. And this is why I think Ottawa is the only play. You can look at it that you take, if you can get the number quickly at 165, you probably take it. And you know me, I don't like to play a lot of high price juice. If not, you're going to have to look at other ways of playing it, and regulation line is another way of playing it. But those are my thoughts. Ottawa has to be the only play here. Washington could go in and surprise them, of course. It's the NHL. Chicago went into Toronto. Toronto was minus 345, and Chicago beats them 4-1. Favorites do lose in this league. I just really don't think this is one of them tonight.
I'm right there with you, Carm. And I like the way you said that. You know, favorites will lose, but it's all about finding the spots that they will lose. And I don't think this is the spot for it either. I think that just the speed and really what Ottawa brings to the table, I don't know if Washington can really match it very, very much from line to line to line. And their defensive core, I will say, though, Washington has some sneaky good goaltending. So they're going to give up a ton of shots. I wouldn't mind looking at some goalie save props on Washington goaltenders this season. But Carm, I've done a pretty good job this season so far looking at some sneaky underplays. And a lot of the unders I've been betting have actually been under 6.5s. Although these are the games that, of course, the book is implying that we should see a high scoring game. I've been trying to find some of these 6.5s that I think just simply shouldn't be there. Now, I don't think we should be getting 6.5s in any Washington games. You look at their game against Pittsburgh, they got shut out. And like you mentioned, Carm, their game against the Calgary Flames, well, I think it was a poor defensive effort there from the Calgary Flames. Of course, that one ends in a shootout with Washington winning that one 3-2. I like under 6.5 in this one. Ottawa has been involved in 3 games so far. 3 of those games have gone over. 2 of those were because they pushed the total over. One of them was because the Hurricanes pushed it over. But I think that you look at the teams that they've played so far, you've got a Philadelphia team that they just beat up on. You've got a Tampa Bay team that they caught off guard early. And then, of course, you have the Hurricanes in their home opener that are a really, really tough matchup, pegged to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. So here we've got a weeknight game, Wednesday night, just 2 games here. And, you know, if Marco was here, he would start making a sandwich and call this a sandwich spot because both these teams have some tougher games coming up, Carm. I just think this is one of those games where we finally see a good defensive effort out of the Ottawa Senators. And the Capitals should even know by now, and their coaches are not going to want this team to get involved in back and forth trading goal style of games. So when you guys look and see today, when everyone's talking about the over in this game and how this game should have goals, not every single Ottawa game is going to have 7 or 8 goals. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. I'll go under 6.5 in this one, Carm. And it's those 6.5s, man. I'm going to try and peg and just try and find some good spots to go under. It's not easy to get 7 or 8 goals in hockey. It isn't really, you know, it's hard to get that. You need a lot of things to go right.
No, absolutely. And I want to touch on a couple things because it's a couple. One I monitored yesterday because we had talked about it on trying to turn a 7 into a 6.5 without laying all that vig pregame. And then we had a question on not yesterday's video, but on Monday's video from one of our viewers, Paulo De Silva, who I've actually met. I met him and his daughter. He's from Toronto. And during the World Cup, I gave away a couple framed Cristiano Ronaldo jerseys, signed jerseys, and he won one of them. So I met him in downtown Toronto, him and his daughter. But he had a question. So I want a couple things. The Sabre game yesterday, we talked about 7. It's so tough to go over the number of 7. I was willing to give it a shot yesterday, but I said you can wait in game for that one. 3 minutes, exactly 3 minutes into the game, across 4 different books that were on my screen. No goal scored in the first 3 minutes of the Sabres game. The 7 turned into 6.5 minus 115, both ways. So I know a couple of guys had posted that there were some sports books that you could get the 6.5, but the juice was 156 on the over 6.5, which is insane. I would never play over 6.5 minus 156 pregame just because everyone offers in-game betting. Andrew, you know it. They do. So there's that thought. So that was me just keeping an eye on it, referencing something from yesterday. And Paulo asked in the Monday video about, seeing books with some numbers and seeing like 5.5s in one game, but then seeing a 6.5 on the same game, and it's like minus 130 is the juice. And he's like, shouldn't you just try and play a six and middle it? Um, I think the short answer is no. And I want to thank Ralph Michaels for this because he just literally, I asked him, he got this to me right now in like 2 minutes. He got me this last season in 1,400 games that were played, 160 times the game landed on exactly 6 goals, which is 11.4%. I don't think that price is good enough, Andrew, to want to try and middle a number, especially hockey, because back in the old days, when I was watching hockey, and Andrew, and you were just, yeah, I don't know what you were, but back then, you might not even been around. The it was games were like 3-2. You got an empty net goal. It finished 4-2. Coaches put their goalie back in net. They didn't keep the goalie out of the net. Now they take a goalie out. They're down 3-2. They take him out 4 minutes before the game is over, and it's 4-2. And the minute they get it down into the offensive zone, they pull the goalie again. So there's so much that can go wrong with trying to hit an exact number like a six that I just don't think it's worth it over the long haul, especially the way books are becoming. I'm not going to say they're player friendly. The actual reverse of that, and that's why we're seeing some bunch of juice numbers because they know people are still going to bet and they want to bet. And instead of offering them a minus 110 both ways, they can offer them minus 120, minus 125 both ways, and people will still bet it.
I think a good example to use, obviously, there's only so many different numbers a sport can land on, or the hockey can land on, compared to other sports. But picture this: if you had an NFL game that you really liked, and you wanted to get a team plus 3.5, but the plus 3.5 was like minus 150, would you still bet it? Sure, that's a key number, getting three in the hook. But at what point is the juice too much for you to care about that key number? Or I shouldn't use the word care about that, but at what point is that really value getting the hook if you have to lay a price to do so? And that's kind of how I feel about 6.5s. Sure, a lot of games are landing on 7, a lot of over 6.5s land on 7, but long term, you don't want to be laying 130, 140, some of these ridiculous prices. And the only time I'd recommend people to do that is if you're a very low volume bettor. If you're only doing that every now and then, you can afford to do that. But if you're consistently laying heavy juice on over 6.5s, it only takes a few losses for you to hurt your bankroll with that. And, you get
Yeah,
these sevens that are plus money, and it's going to add up. So, what do they always say in the NFL? Like, don't
yeah,
buy points, don't, try and get these key numbers and things like that. Because quite often what happens is if your team ends up covering, I mean, Carm, you're the NFL guru, man, having these sweeps every week, it seems like. You know how it is. You don't really, nobody should buy points because a lot of times when you win your bet, you're not often winning by just a half a point or 1 point. You're winning by more than that.
yeah. Yeah, and listen, the bookmakers' lines are usually pretty bang on, and this is why they continue to build those nice big casinos and those nice big buildings in Vegas with those pools. Um, but I just want to go off on a bit of a tangent here, Andrew, just because like our puck time community is so is fantastic. The comments we get and whatnot. And I remember last year, he's always in our chat. Jeffrey Heineman, his mom last year, going through a rough patch, obviously with cancer. His mom had surgery, and he put in a live chat that she's in remission right now. So that's absolutely fantastic news, Jeffrey. And we wish her the best. Jeffrey also asked before the show even started, he wondered whether Kansas or Nebraska has more cornfields. Jeffrey, I'm here to tell you that last year it was actually Iowa. They cultivated 12.9 million acres of land last year for corn. So that is your answer to your question. And speaking of corn, that was a corny one right at the end there, Andrew. Let's get on to the next game.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody that's here watching. I was overwhelmed by all the comments on yesterday's video. So, guys, just 2 games today. But please, if you are here, leave a like. It really does help Carmine and I, and help us be the most liked show on the channel. It helps the two of us out. So, do us a favor if you're here watching, hit the like button on this video and subscribe to our channel here on WagerTalk TV. Next game up, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins, Detroit Red Wings going head to head. Carm, this is a Red Wings team that people had expectations, ready to take that next step to move forward from the rebuild. Them and kind of like Buffalo are, in my opinion, in that same category. I've heard a lot of people saying that Detroit's ahead of them, Buffalo's ahead. It depends on who you talk to. Either way, Detroit has got off to a pretty good start. Their offense looks pretty good. But here's the deal. I don't think their defense is looking great. And I don't think it's going to get better. And despite them not letting a ton of goals in, I just think that this is a defensive core that has not been built properly. If you look at their 6 defensemen, there are 3 different line pairings there. It's not a lot of youth. You know, you've got 1 or 2 younger guys ish, but you've got guys that aren't really puck moving defensemen. The Weiser plan, as they call it, the Stevie Weiser plan, it's been a lot of young and small forwards. You don't really have a lot of defensemen that can jump into the rush and activate. In fact, they're quite sloppy. And that bothers me because you look at nowadays in the NHL, you need to have defensemen that can move into the rush. You don't want all your defensemen to be just stay at home, flat on your feet type defensemen that don't contribute to the offense. Because when you play a team against Pittsburgh, well, Pittsburgh, who do they have? Oh, yeah, 2 guys, Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang, 2 of the best offensive defensemen in the league. Not to mention they've also been doing this for 10, 15 years in this league. Pittsburgh's had a jam-packed schedule, though, recently, playing some tougher games, playing in some action-packed games, and so is Detroit. So, Karma, after giving out 1 under on the earlier game, I'm actually going to go over 6.5 in this one. I think that both teams get on the board early. I think they trade goals throughout this game. I do lean towards the Pittsburgh side, but I'm going to stay off that minus 125. Stick with the over 6.5 here. I do expect goals here. And the thing is with this Pittsburgh team, they are a little bit older. That's what everybody talks about. They have to stay healthy. Can some of their forwards play defense as good as they can play offense? We'll find out. They got a great power play. They've moved Sidney Crosby out of the bumper spot. He's now playing near the net, which is helping him out quite a bit. But I'm looking for Detroit, Alex DeBrincat, Pittsburgh, and Sidney Crosby to get on the board a ton tonight. So I like the over 6.5 in this game. What do you have for us, Penguins and Red Wings?
Did you say Ute? What's a Ute? Um,
I didn't
I
say
think
that.
you meant youth. I don't know.
Youth,
Yeah, I
yeah,
guess
youth, youth, youth.
my
Hey,
cousin.
I'm not a part
You've
of
never
that
seen my
Toronto slang. I'm not a part of that Toronto
You've never
slang.
seen my sorry, that was a reference to my cousin Vinny. So if you watch the movie, you would know what I was talking about when the judge says to him, "Ute? Did you say Ute? What's a Ute?" Andrew, listen. Uh, my first thoughts on this game was: is the wrong team favored? No disrespect to Pens fans out there, but it's just because the Red Wings, I've watched their games, every game that they've played, only 3, of course, but they played a really good game against the Devils, and they lose that one 4-3. The game against Tampa, again, we don't know what it is with Tampa because I faded them in a couple spots thus far, and on this road trip, and goaltending issues, defensive issues, Stamkos being injured, so I get all of that. But even the game against Columbus, they shut out Columbus. They played a really good game, and now here they are. They're back home facing a Pittsburgh team that really has only played 1 good period of hockey. They played Washington, who generated pretty much nothing in that game. 19 shots, 5 high danger chances. Didn't play a great game, but they won. You can only play and beat the teams they put in front of you. And then against the Calgary Flames, they played a third period because Calgary outplayed them in the first 2 periods, held that 1-0 lead. Yes, I'm using soccer references here. 1-0. Uh, and then Pittsburgh scores 2 in the first 41 seconds of the third period and completely took that game over. And it was all downhill from there for Calgary. So, do they build off that period? Very well, they could. But this Detroit team just seems to be really high energy right now. Can they maintain it for an 82 game season? No, I don't think they can. I'm sorry, Johnny Detroit, if you're watching this right now live, they can't uh, maintain that for. But we have seen, and I've talked about it, we have seen teams at the beginning of the year that may not be there halfway through the season or three-quarters of the season, but they come out and they play extremely well in the first couple of weeks of the season, and that very well could be this Detroit Red Wings team, and you're getting plus money on them at home. I get it. You look at the lineup and the stars, and they're all with this Pittsburgh Penguins team, but they're putting this price out there, and I feel like they're almost begging you to take the Pittsburgh Penguins at minus 125, and I don't want any part of it. So I would lean with you on the over here because I think Detroit gets theirs, and if Pittsburgh's going to win, they're going to need theirs. But I'm willing to take the plus 105 on Detroit in this one and just see how it pans out.
I understand what you're saying there, Carmen. I think that if Detroit keeps looking pretty good, they're not going to be in these price ranges very long. And I think that you look at a team like Buffalo, look at what their price was yesterday against Tampa Bay. I mean, if that doesn't show you the Atlantic is getting more and more competitive, I don't know what would, because that was a very tight, money line price there for a team that, let's say, 2 years ago would have been a massive, massive, massive underdog against Tampa Bay. So things are certainly changing, and Detroit and teams like them are getting better and better as they go. I have one prop I did want to give out. I talk about liking over in this game, and when I'm looking at props, I don't like to lay high juice too often. Um, I like Ville Husso over 27 and a half saves here, Carm. It's minus 105. And like I said, this Red Wings team has a powerful offense. They've got a good transition game, but they do give up a ton of shots. And Pittsburgh, they draw a lot of penalties. They will capitalize in the power play, shooting the puck a ton. And it's funny because I hear people tell me this all the time. They're like, okay, come on, dude. You like the over in this game, but you're going to take a save prop on this goaltender? Yes, that's exactly what you're hearing, because I expect a lot of shots as well. All we need is 28 saves from him. Still leaves us lots of room for goals, I believe, in this one. And of course, I'll be looking at some shot props here in this game. But I want to get your thoughts on that, Carm, because people always tell me, how does that make any sense? You like a goalie save prop, but you also like the over. And I'm just telling them, look, it means I think there's going to be lots of shots. So if that's the case, I still think the goalie can have himself a good game. But are there any props or anything that you would look at? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but any players at all that you'd keep your eye on for this game?
Yeah, well, for both games, Andrew, I think we're going to see some higher shots on goal, which makes the shot props a better bet. As long as you don't have to lay a ton of vig, because that's always the thing is the
Mhm.
juice on some of these. You'll see 2.5s and you see minus 160, and I'm like, I know it's going to get there, but I don't want to lay that vig on it. Um, I've only released, I think, three props thus far, shots on goal props, and I lost only one of them, and that was on Ovechkin. Which, in hindsight, I shouldn't have taken it with a team that hasn't, didn't get a lot of shots in the first game, but he had 4 of the 19 shots. And of course, he's probably going to go over his number tonight in Ottawa, but I won't be on him. I will look at some Ottawa players, and I will look at some shot props in the Pittsburgh and Detroit game, because I just don't see that being a very low scoring game. I think if the Red Wings play how they have played in their 3 games thus far, they're going to drag the Pittsburgh Penguins into their style of play, which could very well be up and down the ice. And regardless of whether the goals are there, the shots should be there. So I'm gonna look at that, and then you also figure on guys who are on the number one lines as far as the power plays. We could see some power plays in that Detroit and Pittsburgh game, and you always want to take the guys who you know are on the number one lines on the power play, because they are going to be on the power play and they're going to get shots there, right? So all shots count. So those 2.5s at minus 130, 135 are probably the ones that I normally will zone in on and look to hit. So with that said, I will have some props up on the site later, as long as they're not, they haven't priced me out of them. I only have one NHL play up thus far.
Yeah, speaking of which, what we have going on tonight over at WagerTalk.com, of course, guys, there's a lot of videos up right now. You got college football preview videos, NFL preview videos, and Carmine and I are doing NHL preview standalone videos every single day on the YouTube channel. So please continue to check that out over at WagerTalk.com. If you want our plays, you can go to wt.buzz/CB for Carmine and AM for myself. And I've got just one best bet so far tonight in the NHL, Carmine. I will be adding some more potentially, but mostly just some small props towards this card. Gear up for a big Thursday. As you know, those Thursday slates are massive. But my best bet for this show is going to be the over 6.5 there in the Pittsburgh game. I think it's going to be a really competitive one. I think we're going to see goals throughout that one. And I think the fatigue factor, even though it's early in the year, from that jam-packed schedule Pittsburgh's been dealing with, could make them give up a few goals and Detroit catch them off guard. But with the dynamic offense, now including Erik Karlsson, I feel like this Penguins team is going to be involved in plenty of high-scoring games this season. I'll bet the over. Detroit and Pittsburgh, 6.5. Looking for an entertaining game in that one. What do you have for us for your show play, Carm? And what are you following up your 5% victory with across all sports? Any soccer action for you today? And you got the one best bet for hockey?
Yeah, it's going to be a quiet day for the most part for me. I will be loading my NFL plays for the weekend and some hockey games for Thursday. One play up right now. Um, I was going to add a soccer play tonight. Inter Miami is playing Charlotte. I like Charlotte in that game. I don't even know what the price is. I think they're plus money. Anyways, I likely will take that. Lionel Messi obviously is not with the team. He's in Argentina, scored 2 goals last night for them. And I'm coming off a really good Euro qualifying. This round of qualifying that started last Thursday and ended yesterday. I ended up with 12 wins, 4 losses, and 3 pushes. Very profitable, and I'll be getting my EPL plays up for the weekend as well too, today and tomorrow. So just keep an eye on my page. I have one NHL play up. I'm going to add a couple player props to it, and it'll be priced at about $19 on the page there. But we have that great deal that's going on right now, 30 days, all access, 199. Um, Really doing well. NHL is amping up right now, and of course, NFL number one at WagerTalk last 3 weeks in the NFL as well too, picking up 29 units of action. I think number four overall, number 4 or 5 at WagerTalk in NFL this season. So let's see if we can keep everything rolling. My free play in today's show in honor of Don Buster yesterday and his hitting his free space on the bingo card. I'm going to go with a Buster type play today. I'm going to take the Ottawa Senators minus a half plus 145 in the first period. So Ottawa minus a half minus a plus 145 first period line plus it's plus 145. That's a Don Buster type play. So that's my free play on today's show. And guys, your comments are absolutely fantastic. Drop them in the video below. Let us know who you like. Any questions you have that we can answer on future shows as well too. We always appreciate you guys tuning in each and every day.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Tomorrow will be myself, Carmine, and the Prez. So an episode, of course, you will not want to miss of Puck Time. Best of luck on these 2 games, guys. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow.